There have been almost 200 comic book and graphic novel movie adaptations in Hollywood's history. But which ones stand the all-time test with both audiences and critics as the 10 best loved ever? I'll tell you right now on Screen Junkies News. I'm Dan Murrell, and if you know me, then you know that I love crunching numbers. And with so many comic book movies hitting a creative high mark, there have been lots of claims about which one was the best received, or the best reviewed, or the best loved of all time. But is there a way to actually determine which one stands above them all? I decided to try getting to the bottom of that question by doing some old-fashioned math, taking into account both audience and critical opinions on every comic book movie ever made. Here's how it works. For every comic book or graphic novel movie, I compiled data on how they were received by using 4 major resources. For critics, I used the film's Metacritic score and the film's average rating on Rotten Tomatoes. To be clear, I did not use the tomato meter, which only measures what percentage of critics liked a movie. I used the average rating, which is far more indicative of how much critics liked it. For audiences, I also used 2 sources. The average audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, again, not the percentage, but the average score, and each film's user rating on IMDb. And yes, I know these are not scientific polls, but I have neither the time nor the budget to get every moviegoer's opinion face to face, so it's the best system that I could come up with. Besides, we're just having a little fun, right? Using these 4 numbers, I normalized the results into a 1 through 10 score for each movie, combined them all together and averaged them into one composite score, which I then sorted from highest to lowest to come up with the final ranking. So, with all that boring stuff out of the way, let's get to the numbers. Before we get to the movies based on comics, I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge movies that are based on graphic novels. I wrestled with this decision, but ultimately decided to rank them on their own list, mainly because they tend to produce very different kinds of films than ones that are based on continuing comic series. It seemed more fair to compare them on their own and let the heroes mainly battle it out amongst themselves. So, based on rankings from fans and critics, here's what I've determined are the 5 most loved graphic novel movies. At number 5 is David Cronenberg's A History of Violence, based on the graphic novel by John Wagner and Vince Locke. A History of Violence was nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor for William Hurt. Its high critical response helped it beat out V for Vendetta, a huge audience favorite, for the number 5 spot. And yes, if you're saying V for Vendetta was a series of comics later compiled into a graphic novel, welcome to the last few days of my life. At number 4 is Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer, starring Chris Evans, based on the 1982 French graphic novel Les Transperceniers, which I'm sure I did not pronounce right just now. Snowpiercer's very high 8.25 out of 10 critics score helped edge it into the top 5, while audiences ranked it 7th, right behind Road to Perdition, which didn't make the combined top 5. At number 3 is probably the most obscure film on the list, Sweden's We Are the Best from 2013, which director Lukas Moodysson adapted from his wife Coco Moodysson's graphic novel, Never Good Night. The film is about a group of middle school girls in the 1980s who decide to form their own punk band. While We Are the Best may be the least seen on the list, both critics and audiences loved what they saw, and they both ranked the movie in their top 5. At number 2 is an internationally acclaimed film, Blue is the Warmest Color, based on the French graphic novel by Julie Murrell. Ranked number 2 by both critics and audiences, Blue is the Warmest Color won the top prize at the 2013 Cannes Film Festival, the Palme d'Or, as well as prizes for its director and 2 lead actresses. The film was shut out for Oscar consideration for Best Foreign Film after it failed to meet an Academy deadline for release in France and was overlooked in other major categories that year. And finally, at number 1 is a movie that was nominated for an Oscar, Persepolis, nominated for Best Animated Feature in 2008, a French-Iranian animated film based on author Marjane Satrapi's autobiographical graphic novel from the year 2000. Set during the Iranian Revolution, Persepolis was considered a dark horse to win the animated film Oscar, but ultimately lost to Pixar's Ratatouille. At least it didn't lose to the other nominee in that category that year, Surf's Up, a movie where Shia LaBeouf voices a talking penguin named Cody Maverick. So that's the top 5 graphic novel movies, and for the record, the film adaptation of Watchmen, probably the most acclaimed graphic novel of all time, made neither the audience nor the critics' top 5 with a composite score of 6.575. Sorry, Dr. Manhattan. Now, with graphic novels on their own critically acclaimed island, let's dive into the movies based largely on comic books. Coming in at number 10 is one of the most excellently received films from the Marvel catalog, 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past. This is the only X-Men branded film on this list, boosted largely by an 8.3 audience score, which placed it 5th on the audience favorite list. Days of Future Past made almost $750 million worldwide, making it not just the only movie with X-Men in the title on this list, but the highest grossing X-Men branded movie across the globe. At number 9 is another long-awaited superhero team-up movie, 2016's Captain America Civil War. Critics ranked Civil War 9th, tied with Wonder Woman, while audiences ranked it 6th on their list. Civil War is the first of 5 movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe appearing on the combined top 10 list. It's also one of only 4 MCU movies that's made over $1 billion worldwide as of right now. At number 8 is a movie that a lot of people might not know was based on a comic book series, Park Chan-wook's brutal 2003 thriller, OLDBOY. OLDBOY began its life as a Japanese manga series, making it eligible for this list, and is voraciously popular with audiences, landing in the top 10 largely due to a fan score of 8.5, second on the all-time audience favorite list. Critics gave the movie a strong 7.35 average, but OLDBOY's mix of brutal imagery, mystery, and an unforgettable twist pushed audiences to deliver it a spot in the top 10. Coming in at number 7 is 2012's Marvel's The Avengers, the culmination of Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Avengers landed at number 3 on the audience favorite list, with critics ranking it just outside the top 10. A massive success upon its original release, The Avengers remains the MCU's highest grossing film worldwide at over $1.5 billion, and the 5th highest grossing film of all time ever released globally. At number 6 is the film that started the MCU, 2008's Iron Man. Now, it's hard to believe it's been almost a decade since Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau helped usher in the modern era of comic book movies. But Iron Man's popularity has not waned in the 10 years since its release. Audiences and critics agreed on their love of the film, with both groups ranking it number 7 on their list. That combined love was able to push Iron Man up 1 spot to number 6 once all the numbers were averaged. Kicking off the top 5 are 2 movies with vastly different tones that tied on the final list. With an identical combined score of 8.05 are 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy and 2003's American Splendor. Guardians of the Galaxy, the top movie of summer 2014, leveraged a number 8 critics ranking and number 3 audience ranking, tied with The Avengers, to make the top 10. But American Splendor has the critics to thank for its placement on this list, as it was the top-rated comic book movie of all time, according to critics, scoring an 8.65. American Splendor is based on a comic book series of the same name, written by Harvey Pekar, and was also an Academy Award nominee for Best Adapted Screenplay. Audiences weren't quite so high on the film, awarding it a 7.45 average rating, but the near-unanimous critical acclaim for American Splendor pushed it into the top 5. Coming in at number 4 is a movie that's nominated for this year's Best Adapted Screenplay Academy Award, James Mangold's Logan. Logan made both the audience and critics' top 10 lists, with an audience score of 8.35, nudging the movie into the top 5 over the critics, where it tied Iron Man for 7th place. While films based on comic properties like American Splendor and A History of Violence have been Oscar nominated for writing before, Logan is the first superhero property to be nominated in that category. Logan also picked up a Writers Guild nomination for its screenplay and a SAG Award nomination for its stunt ensemble. DC Comics heroes haven't been represented on this list yet, but that changes at number 3, with Christopher Nolan's trilogy capping The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight Rises was the 6th ranked movie from critics, but tied OLDBOY for 2nd place with audiences with a score of 8.5. Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy remains a huge hit with fans. The first film in the franchise, Batman Begins, tied for 8th place on the audience list, but did not have enough critical support to crack the overall top 10. The number 2 spot belongs to the most recent release on this list, as in you can go see it in theaters right now, last month's Black Panther, which rides a wave of audience and critical support to the number 2 spot. While audiences put Black Panther in a tie for 8th, critics rank the movie at number 2 on their list, behind American Splendor, vaulting the King of Wakanda to runner-up status on the combined list. Black Panther is already a top 20 all-time grosser on the domestic box office charts and will soon become only the 10th movie to make over $500 million domestically and only the 3rd superhero movie to pass that landmark. So while time may shift Black Panther's position on this list, it will undeniably remain a landmark in the superhero genre. Now, I could probably end this video right now without revealing the #1 movie, but what the heck, let's do it anyway. To the surprise of no one, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight ranks atop the heap of the most loved superhero films of all time with a composite score of 8.65. The Dark Knight was easily the #1 ranked film on the audience list with a score of 8.9, but no slouch on the critics list either, coming in at number 3 with a score of 8.4. Released along with Iron Man in the summer of 2008, The Dark Knight remains the movie most often pointed to as the benchmark to clear for all other comic book movies. And while The Dark Knight's position may seem insurmountable, if this genre has taught us anything, it's that no superhero is untouchable and that rules were made to be broken. But for now, congratulations Caped Crusader, in the hearts of fans and critics, you're #1. Of course, there are so many great comic book movies that didn't make this list. Movies like Ghost World, Superman and Superman 2, and Spider-Man 2, which made the critics' top 10 list, but not the audience's, and movies like Deadpool, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and Thor Ragnarok, which audiences ranked in their top 10, but critics didn't. But as comic book fans and movie fans, it's important to remember that a spirit of camaraderie and heroism is what brings us together, and that all movie fans, be they fan or critic, united and agreed that Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, which ranked nearly dead last on both lists, is a terrible, terrible movie. Thanks for watching. Is there a franchise or genre that you'd like me to crunch the numbers on? Let us know in the comments section below, and stay tuned to Screen Junkies News for daily news, reviews, and special content about everything you love about the movies. Till next time, I'm Dan Murrell.